Habit 4. Aggressive weight loss after 65. If you are over 65 and your BMI is between 25 and 29.9, you have probably been told you are overweight. You have probably been told to lose weight. You may have been put on a calorie-restricted diet. I need to tell you what your BMI chart is not showing you. The BMI categories were designed using data primarily from middle-aged adults. The thresholds were not derived from and have not been validated for adults in their 70s and 80s. When researchers specifically studied mortality risk in adults over 65 across BMI categories, the results were so counterintuitive that the phenomenon earned its own name in medical literature: the Obesity Paradox. Multiple large-scale studies found that in adults over 65 to 70, the lowest mortality risk was not in the normal BMI category of 18.5 to 24.9. It was in the overweight category, BMI 25 to 29.9. People with a slightly higher body weight lived longer, had better outcomes after illness, survived major surgeries, particularly hip replacements, at higher rates, recovered from infections more effectively. When your body faces a major acute event, a serious infection, a surgery, a cardiac episode, it requires enormous metabolic resources to survive. In a person who is slightly heavier, there is a metabolic reserve. The body has energy stores it can draw upon. In a person who is at normal or underweight BMI, that reserve doesn't exist. The body, faced with crisis, has nothing left to burn, and so it burns muscle. The standard advice, lose weight, often means lose muscle for a senior. Because the most effective way for an older body to lose mass quickly is to shed muscle, not fat. Muscle is metabolically expensive to maintain. When calories drop, the aging body economizes by sacrificing it. This is why geriatricians now refer to aggressive weight loss in seniors as potentially a death sentence in terms of the clinical outcomes that follow. The obesity paradox does not apply to central adiposity, belly fat. Carrying weight around your midsection remains a genuine cardiovascular and metabolic risk at any age. A 72-year-old with a BMI of 27 who carries weight throughout their frame is in a better mortality risk category than a 72-year-old with a BMI of 22 who is thin throughout. But significant abdominal obesity carries a distinct cardiovascular risk regardless of overall BMI. Shape matters more than the number on the scale. If you are a senior who has been told to lose weight, ask your doctor, "Are you recommending weight loss to reduce my BMI or to specifically reduce central adiposity? And have you accounted for the risk of muscle loss during caloric restriction at my age?" I told you earlier that habit number 3 was the one I needed you to stay for. We're there. This is the habit that is actively affecting millions of seniors right now, today, and the damage it creates is the kind that doctors have a clinical term for, a term that, once you hear it, you will never forget. Habit 3. Low-protein light eating. It's the most common meal in senior America. Tea and toast in the morning, a light salad for lunch, maybe a small bowl of soup for dinner. It feels virtuous. It feels careful. It feels like the right thing to do for an aging body. It is quietly destroying your muscles. Here's what is happening inside a body that eats light. Your muscles are in a constant state of breakdown and rebuilding. Every day, your body breaks down old muscle protein and replaces it with new. This process is called muscle protein turnover. In a 30-year-old, this system is highly efficient. But starting in your 60s, the biological mechanism that signals your muscles to synthesize new protein becomes progressively less sensitive. Researchers call this anabolic resistance. The standard recommended daily protein intake, 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight, was calculated for young adults. For a person over 60, that amount is not enough to maintain muscle mass. Not because you need more fuel, but because your muscle's ability to respond to protein signals has been blunted. Current expert consensus now recommends healthy adults over 60 consume between 1.0 and 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily. Those managing chronic illness, up to 1.5 grams per kilogram. That is almost double the standard recommendation. But there is a second layer, and it's the part that most nutrition advice completely misses. It's not just how much protein you eat, it's when and how much at once. Research has identified a threshold, approximately 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal, below which a senior's muscles do not receive a strong enough anabolic signal to trigger synthesis. The signal has to be strong enough at each sitting to overcome anabolic resistance. This is why geriatricians now prescribe something called protein pacing, deliberately engineering each meal to contain 25 to 30 grams of complete protein rather than spreading it thinly across the day. The man I'm thinking of is someone I'll call Thomas. 71 years old, former engineer, sharp, proud, independent. His wife had passed 2 years earlier, and Thomas had largely lost interest in cooking. He ate light because it felt like enough. Tea in the morning, a few crackers with cheese at noon, sometimes a can of soup at night. Over 18 months, Thomas's family noticed something they couldn't quite name. He moved more slowly, sat down more often, seemed to be shrinking, not dramatically, but consistently. When his daughter finally took him to a geriatrician, Thomas had lost nearly 15% of his skeletal muscle mass. His grip strength, one of the most reliable predictors of longevity, had fallen into the bottom 20th percentile for his age group. His gait speed had slowed to the point where completing a crosswalk before the light changed was no longer guaranteed. "You're not sick, Thomas. You're starving your muscles. You've been doing it for 2 years." Thomas had been eating light because he thought it was the careful thing to do. Because everything around him, every health message, every food label, every cultural signal, told him that eating less was virtuous. What those messages never told him was that after 60, eating light and slowly starving your muscles can be the same thing. What does 30 grams of protein look like at a meal? 3 to 4 eggs, a palm-sized piece of chicken or fish, a cup of Greek yogurt with a handful of nuts, a protein smoothie with 2 scoops and milk. It's not extreme. It's not a bodybuilder's diet. It's just enough to actually work. The muscle loss from eating light feeds directly into the frailty spiral we talked about in habit number 6. And the fastest way to accelerate that spiral is through the next habit, something that every cardiologist, every physical therapist, every fitness trainer has been pushing on seniors for 30 years. And they've been pushing the wrong thing. Habit 2, cardio over resistance training. Cardio is good for you. Let me be completely clear about that before I say another word. Regular walking improves cardiovascular function, mental health, blood sugar regulation, and a dozen other markers of well-being. If you walk, keep walking. But here is what walking cannot do for you after 60. It cannot preserve your fast-twitch muscle fibers. And fast-twitch fibers, type 2 muscle fibers, are the ones that will determine whether you are alive and independent in 10 years. Your muscles contain 2 primary types of fiber. Type 1, slow-twitch fibers. These power sustained, low-intensity activity. Walking, standing, gentle movement. Cardio exercise primarily recruits and preserves these fibers. Type 2, fast-twitch fibers. These power explosive, rapid responses. Catching yourself when you trip, standing up quickly from a chair, taking a step to prevent a fall. Aging causes a preferential, accelerated loss of type 2 fast-twitch fibers. By your 70s, if you have done no resistance training, you may have lost 30 to 40% of your fast-twitch fiber mass. And walking, no matter how consistently, no matter how far, does almost nothing to preserve or rebuild these fibers. This is why researchers studying senior falls made a discovery that reframed the entire field of geriatric fitness. The variable that best predicted whether a senior would suffer a fall, better than balance scores, better than cardiovascular fitness, better than bone density, was muscle power. Not muscle strength, not aerobic capacity. Power. The ability to generate force rapidly. The microsecond you trip, the moment your foot catches an uneven sidewalk, you have approximately 80 to 150 milliseconds to generate enough force in your legs to prevent yourself from going down. That window is served exclusively by your fast twitch fibers. If they're gone, no amount of cardiovascular fitness saves you. Modern geriatric fitness science now emphasizes power training, which is distinct from both traditional strength training and cardio. Power training focuses on performing the lifting or pushing phase of a movement quickly, emphasizing the speed of force production, not just the total weight moved. Standing from a chair and pushing up fast. A light resistance band pulled explosively. A body weight squat performed with velocity on the way up. These movements specifically recruit and preserve type 2 fast twitch fibers. They train the exact neuromuscular system that prevents stumble falls. And they don't require a gym, a trainer, or any equipment beyond a sturdy chair. The fitness industry told seniors to walk. And walking is good. But it told seniors to walk instead of resistance training, and for the mechanism that actually prevents the falls that kill 36,000 Americans over 65 every year. That was the wrong trade. We have one habit left, and it connects every single thing we've discussed today. Because habit number 1 isn't about one pill or one behavior. It's about what happens when your doctor, following legitimate, well-intentioned guidelines, pushes your blood pressure too far down, and what that does to the most important organ in your body. Habit 1. Aggressive blood pressure targets 120/80. For generations, that number has been the holy grail of cardiovascular health. Doctors aimed for it. Patients were praised for hitting it. Medications were added, adjusted, increased, all in pursuit of that perfect number. And for a 45-year-old, that goal makes complete physiological sense. For a 78-year-old, it can be catastrophic. As you get older, your arteries gradually stiffen. They lose elasticity. They become less flexible. In a young person's flexible arterial system, lower blood pressure is fine. The vessels adapt, and blood reaches the brain easily at lower pressure. In a stiffened, aging arterial system, the body actually requires slightly higher pressure to push blood through those rigid vessels, particularly upward against gravity to the brain. When you aggressively medicate an older person to hit 120/80, you may be leaving their brain chronically underperfused, not getting enough blood. The clinical consequence is called orthostatic hypotension, a sudden drop in blood pressure when the person stands up. Blood that was marginally adequate when lying still suddenly cannot compensate for the shift in gravity. The result? Dizziness, loss of balance, falls, and not minor falls. Falls in 78-year-olds lead to hip fractures. Hip fractures in that age group carry a 1-year mortality rate approaching 30%. The drug prescribed to protect your cardiovascular system at the wrong target, in the wrong body, is contributing to the falls that end independence and end lives. Updated guidelines from the American College of Physicians and the American Academy of Family Physicians now recommend a more flexible blood pressure target for adults over 75. In many cases, below 150/90 is considered appropriate, with the priority being quality of life and fall prevention, not matching the numbers of a younger cardiovascular profile. George, 78, retired firefighter from Pennsylvania. On 3 blood pressure medications for 6 years. His readings were consistently excellent. His doctor was pleased. George had fallen twice in the past year, both times getting up from bed in the night. Both times he assumed it was clumsiness, age, darkness. When a new physician reviewed his case, she looked at his medication list first, then asked him to stand up and checked his blood pressure immediately after. It dropped 28 points in under a minute. She reduced one medication, adjusted the timing of another. Within 2 weeks, George's nighttime dizziness disappeared entirely. His heart risk didn't increase. His blood pressure, now sitting at 144/86, was within the guidelines that had been updated, but never communicated to him or his previous doctor. The right blood pressure for a 78-year-old is not the right blood pressure for a 45-year-old. And chasing the younger number in the older body with multiple medications is a risk that now has a name in the literature and a solution. The solution is simply asking, "Doctor, given my age, is this target still right for me?"
8 habits. All of them were once considered good medicine. All of them have been quietly reconsidered or outright reversed by the science of the last decade. And across all of them, the pattern is the same. Guidelines updated, journals changed, conferences shifted, but the prescription pad kept refilling, and the patient, you, was never called. I want to close with something important. None of what I've told you today is an indictment of your doctor. Medicine is an ocean of information, and no physician can keep pace with every update in every specialty. What you now have, that most people in your position do not, is the knowledge to ask the right questions. Not accusatory questions, not confrontational questions. The simple, direct questions that open the door. Is daily aspirin still recommended for someone with my profile? Given my age, is this blood pressure target still appropriate? What is the evidence for this supplement preventing fractures specifically in people over 65? Those questions, asked calmly from a place of information, will change the quality of your medical care. Because the goal was never to frighten you. The goal was always to give you back what was quietly taken. Your informed consent, your ability to choose, your partnership in your own health. If this video gave you something valuable today, something you will carry into your next doctor's appointment, please share it with someone you love who is over 60. Because the conversation we just had, they deserve to have it too. Leave a comment below telling me which of these 8 habits surprised you the most. I read every single one. And subscribe, because next week, we're going to cover the 6 things that happen inside your body in the first 30 days after you start protein pacing, and why the results show up faster than most people expect. I'll see you then.